Welcome to another edition of Working with Gen Z. Friends, we've seen how AI is disrupting every facet of our life, whether it's running the business, whether it's making decision, whether it's shopping. One place it's actually making a huge impact is how the recruitment space is happening. And now, if you believe it or not, we are seeing a time where chatbots are actually doing the first interview. The algorithms are deciding, whether you make it to the second round, and even AI is figuring out ways in which to assess their personality. So, what does this mean if you're a young Gen Z entering into the workforce? How do you know if you're actually getting recruited or you're going to be screened by a machine? So, what should you know if you're a Gen Z? And what are the pros and cons of being in a phase where AI is becoming sort of a pivotal point of the recruitment process? And to help us with that is just the expert. And so I'm delighted to welcome a colleague who's joining me very early in the morning. And to Keith, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Nikhil. Thank you very much for having me here. I'm excited now just hearing your warm up to that topic.
All right. Okay. So we have lots of questions. This is very relevant. I know both to you and me. Perhaps in a personal side, I have a son who will be finishing school soon, and a nephew as well. And so they know all too well what AI is doing, but perhaps not fully aware of what it means when they go out in the job world. So we'll use that as a way to kind of figure out what's going on. But I know you spend a lot of time with doing. Lots of good work in your career and your history. So why don't we take a couple of minutes first just to tell our listeners a bit of your story, your background, and then we'll dive into how the recruitment landscape is changing.
Okay, excellent. Do my best. That's right. I think we both have kids roughly same. I have a 20-year-old and a 19-year-old, so right in the heart of this generation. And they, quite frankly, can teach me a lot about AI, but not on the recruitment side of the house. And so that's kind of interesting where my expertise still based clearly. We help companies find and attract and retain great talent. And we've always had this approach of putting culture first in our recruitment and trying to understand all of the behaviors, characteristics, and traits that make up a good candidate and how they would align with the culture. And the beautiful part over the last 2 years or so, not that AI hasn't really been around longer, but in the last 2 years of kind of Gen AI and this ability to take data to a whole new level, we've really been able to, I'll say, datafy, if that's a word I can use or make up. I think it's become real. We've been able to datafy this concept of culture and characteristics and behaviors, and well past what a psychometric or behavioral profile tool may do. If your listeners, I'm sure they know what those are. But so anyhow, we're in the recruitment space. We help companies with a culture first, now AI powered. But I will say this last part very carefully: human driven. We very much believe humans still need to be involved and at the wheel, if you will, driving the AI, driving the culture first, driving the experience. As I'm sure we'll talk about today, there's a ton of places that AI can add benefit, but there's also a ton of places that AI can make the experience tougher for the candidates, the experience worse for the candidates and for the hiring manager. And so we're trying to keep humans at the wheel, not just in the loop that many people talk about today.
Excellent. Well, Keith, you're hitting all the points, every single bullet point that I want to double click. So, right from how AI is managing, and the tool that you're talking about on the culture aspect, but also the human element, which I'm very curious. And where is that intersection? Who's winning, who's taking over? Are we still in control, or where will it go from here? But let's talk kind of big picture first. You've been in recruitment and staffing space for many years of your career. What have you seen? How is AI changing, or how, let's shall reframe this, how is the recruitment landscape kind of evolved, and where do you see now with AI there, right? What's happening with AI in the recruitment space?
Yeah, it's interesting. I dare say how long I've been in the space because I think it's longer than most Gen Zs have been with us. And so I've been in recruitment since before the internet. Let's put it that way. And we used to fax resumes, and we would tape a logo to the top of the resume and fax it over to our client, or we would hand deliver resumes. because that was the only way to do it. And when email really wasn't a thing either. So, uh, the evolution of recruitment, or the evolution of AI and recruitment. AI has been around in the longest time in terms of ranking candidates and ranking resumes, right? 20 plus years ago, the CRMs, the customer relationship databases, or the ATSs, the applicant tracking systems, were taking candidates' resumes and they were searching for keywords, kind of like SEO searching on the internet, search engine optimization. They're optimizing the resumes to figure out who had the most keywords, the most relevant keywords in the right spot, and then the ATS or the system would rank those resumes. And recruiters would use their ATS or their system to start calling at the top of the list. And so AI, again, the intelligence has been around some time, the ability to do these things. What it didn't and what it couldn't do back then, and quite frankly, I worry still isn't doing yet, is put those keywords and those experiences into context. We could talk about I'll use a skill, a Python developer that has 10 years of experience in Python. I think it's been around 10 years, that has 10 years of experience in Python. That's great. But there might be another Python developer that only has 2 years of experience, but has been doing more work in it, has been doing the relevant work in it, has been working in the right sort of industry, right sort of space, applying it the same way that the next company may need it. And so the 2-year person should be higher than the 10-year person. But these old school intelligence rankers didn't do that, right? They put the 10-year person ahead of the 2-year person, and that wasn't relevant. So we've seen that sort of evolution from ranking to this. Now we're seeing, no doubt, and Calica went down this path almost 2 years ago, where we brought in AI and we built our first agentic bot named Alex Bowen. He's got a full name, he's got a LinkedIn profile. And most people, even though it says in the signature it's intelligence or AI, that most people would know. But Alex goes out and sources our database, sources LinkedIn, sources all the job boards, tries to identify candidates based on those keywords, but also based on the relevance of those keywords. It does initial outreach to those candidates, sends them a message over LinkedIn, a text message, an email, whatever context it has. If we wanted to, we could have Alex pick up the phone and call. If we wanted to, we could put an avatar behind Alex and have him, he, she, it call, and have a face behind it as well. But we've stayed away from that for now. Kind of still creeps me out. But Alex does the outreach and has initial conversations with the candidates, back and forth, basic understanding as to whether or not they'd be interested in learning more about a job, what sort of compensation they're looking for, what they're wanting to do in their career, etc. If Alex gets stuck, it goes onto a Slack channel and has a conversation with one of our live recruiters and says, "Hey, I've got a candidate that is XYZ, needs this or that. What do you think?" The recruiter will give it guidance, or it will say, "Give it to me." Eventually, Alex will schedule an interview with one of our recruiters. So we've been doing that for the last 2 years already. So if anyone thinks that's the future, that's already happening. And to your point earlier, sometimes you get on an interview now and you don't know that you're talking to a bot until there's that awkward silence moment, or until there's, some sort of repeated question or cheesy statement or whatever it is. But that's where it's been the last couple of years. What I found, though, Nikhil, not to give it all away in one response here, is that that's still not enough. And so we are very much tearing Alex apart right now, pulling Alex back to the ground, because at the end of the day, Alex, over a year's time, brought in a little over 15,000 candidates, which is great. Pre-screened them, did all that kind of stuff, had those conversations, scheduled interviews. Only one of those candidates actually got the job. And so if I'm bringing in 15,000, only one gets the job, what's the difference? And the difference to me was that hiring is so much more than just about keywords and about skill sets and skill-based hiring. That's very important. But in today's world, where the skills are shifting every 5 minutes, every 3 months, every new release of OpenAI or whatever it may be, the skills are only half the battle, if that. It comes down to those characteristics, behaviors, and traits. Those things that make people tick, their desires, their interests, their passions, their love, what they want to wake up to do in the morning. And Alex and most AI systems out there don't know how to datafy that yet. They don't know how to quantify and put that into the equation to put those candidates at the top of the list. So we figured it out, and we are rebuilding that right now. And And I've got a new, much cooler version of Alex, Alex's big sister, big brother that we're going to be launching later this year. So I'm very excited about that.
Excellent. So, Keith, let's build on that. I want to, if you can give me a case study, and obviously you've talked through how it's evolution. I guess the burning question that's probably there on everyone's mind, it's there on my mind, that okay, if we have to go through the different stages, right? Walk us through, like, okay, where do you sense that AI is reasonably dependable? And as you mentioned, like, look, the cultural um, filtering is still not quite at that level, right? So help us to understand, where do you sense that AI can be relied dependably, right? And where should the human intervene, right? And the other follow-up question, which is the very obvious one, that are we in the process, as you gave the example of 2 year versus 10 year, right? Are we neglecting a potentially good candidate strictly on looking at the CV and the credentials, oftentimes because we've seen in our careers, right? Maybe there's someone who he doesn't have the top GPA or not from the top B school, but he still ends up becoming a very successful leader, right? So how do you address a bias strictly by, like, maybe words or language? So help us with a case study, or what do you sense of that?
Yeah. Um, Being completely forthright, I don't think that answer fully exists yet. I think a lot of recruiters out there are trying to automate the stuff that I talked about that we did with Alex. The sourcing, the outreach, and the initial engagement or pre-screening where they do the basic Q&A back and forth. That's been around for some time. I don't believe, although I know that most recruitment companies are automating that, I don't believe that that's necessarily the best place to utilize AI. I think the sourcing factor, for instance, as an example, AI for the most part would still take that 10-year Python person over the 2-year Python person. AI for the most part would not go out and analyze the LinkedIn comments and reactions and things that the person is engaging with. It's not gonna analyze their recommendations on LinkedIn. It's probably not gonna look at the company history in the same sort of way to understand that this person's company, they're not a hopper, but rather the company got bought by another company or whatever it is, right? It it still doesn't it has it, but it's still not it doesn't know how to use that level of intelligence. So I personally think while many recruitment companies are trying to automate the front end of that experience with a candidate and going to find them, I think right now we still need humans to give the thumbs up or the thumbs down and to give some guidance and some training. So a lot of the AI that we're trying to build is by doing that and helping build that. I think that
Sorry, please.
sorry, go ahead, Mikhail.
No, I was just going to ask you, have you seen companies where on that spectrum, like what's been working, and what are they trying and kind of pushing the button versus, like, to your point, like, what's still not reliable?
Yeah. Again, it's very easy to now build Alex and the equivalent of what we have. Companies are doing that. They're automating their sourcing, their outreach, and their engagement steps. And a lot of companies are automating their pre-screen or first round interview. And a lot of them are doing it with avatars, and that's what's quite frankly upsetting a lot of candidates because they don't feel like they're getting heard or listened to, or that the bot has the ability to converse in the same way, even though they look good and they're looking better every day, videos or sound. I think that that is actually the wrong thing for recruitment companies to do. I don't think we're there yet. Where I do think that AI is incredibly beneficial is in amplifying our human ability to see and analyze things. We leverage AI more as a co-pilot, if you will, to help us when we're out there sourcing, to help us analyze a profile, but we're making sure and enforcing the fact that our eyes are still looking through the entire LinkedIn profile. We're still looking at the context in which it's set. But AI, of course, is helping feed us that information and help us analyze that information in a faster way. Uh, Give the example, right? When we do either a job intake from a client, a company that comes to us and says we need to hire this person, or when we do a candidate intake, we have AI take the first cut at that. And so AI can go in and pull in the relevant information from the resume. It can pull in the relevant stuff from a job description, whatever side of the house we're on, and it can give us a framework to go and then have a guided conversation with that candidate or that client. I believe that that's a very powerful use of AI. It takes some of that basic legwork of pulling out the keywords and pulling out the things that we think are important. And by the way, that's hard skills, soft skills, and behavioral signals. So we can pull that data out of a resume or LinkedIn profile, or whatever, but then we still have a human to human conversation to validate and verify and confirm those things. And I personally think that that's the proper use of AI. I'm going to use it to give me a starting point and to give me some guidance, but I'm still going to get on the phone or the video and sit here and have this face-to-face conversation and say, "Hey, I noticed this, courtesy of AI, putting it into my, my guided conversation structure, but I want to talk about this and I want to validate, how does this work with you and how does this mean? And how did you really use Python, because it's only been a couple of years, or whatever it may be." I think that's the AI amplification of humans.
Yeah.
I think it's very difficult to replace my, 25 years of recruitment experience and that ability to have seen people do great or not do great despite their experiences, the ability of to understand what a good culture-based hire is versus a bad culture-based hire and what that does to an organization, what it does to a person. AI doesn't have that, but it can help me see things in a different way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and yeah,
Amplification.
no, it does. I just want to ask you, in your experience, Keith, what have you seen? Uh, uh, is AI predominantly being used, Keith, where there's large number of CVs to be sort of, I mean, like let's say when you think about large IT companies here in Asia, right? Like they have large numbers of people and they have large people applying, perhaps. Do you sense that it's driven by the volume? Or if you, for example, flip it, if you go on the other end where you have a sweet kind of a recruitment, let's say a top of the house or a very senior leader, right? Is AI more to handle a volume based recruiting where it can bring efficiency, or do you sense that companies are using it now across to simplify? What are you seeing?
I think companies are using it across. I think certainly it has an easier application because the volume is ridiculous these days. And I'll say this especially to the Gen Z folks, that we see an increase in applications right now on every job, whether you're a big company, high volume, low volume. And all of those applications often look solid because a lot of candidates today now will use a chat or a Claude or a Grok or whatever it may be to make sure that their resumes align nicely with the job, that their cover letters look good, that their applications look good. And so just about every application we get now looks pretty solid. So it is more difficult for a human to go through those at volume and distinguish which one deserves the conversation or not. So it is a good application of AI in that sense to help me shortlist this to some extent, help me read between the lines, help me really see what's real and what's not real as best you can. Although AI can trick AI, uh, so that I can have conversations with the right people. Yes, that is a great application of AI that is using today, that is being used, whether it's high volume or lower volume, that's being used because application volume. But what I think is happening is that companies like Calica are starting to avoid job applications and posting jobs to some extent because it's almost wasting our time and it's hurting our experience for our candidates because so many people apply that aren't qualified. It's easier to just not even post the job and to go out to spearfish on our own and go find those people, or even better, to build our community of those people ahead of time, right? I'm much better if I've already spoken to all the, we'll keep going down the Python, to all the Python developers in a certain region or a certain industry, and I already have them on my team, in my club, or in my community. So that when I have a client that comes with a job for that, I can go and talk to the people that I already know, like, and trust, and they know, like, and trust me. All that said, the application of AI is there to sort, but that's a horse race, and that's a really tough place to be. And if you want to get in line with the other 1,000 applications and hope that your resume makes it to the top and that you get to have a conversation, I don't think that's a very good strategy from a candidate's perspective, quite frankly. Um, or from a hiring perspective, I don't think it's the best strategy. a lot of times, especially in a soft job market like it is right now, where things are just saturated, and that's globally soft job market. But
Yeah.
quick thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what, Keith, I think, what advice then would you say for the Gen Z, right? I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword in the sense that, let's say, I'm fresh out of college, and I have a dream company, and we all had our dream companies, and say, hey, I want to work for company A or B, right? And just use an example, like, let's say Google has been ranked for many years like a top employer. Obviously, they're going through their own cycles of what's happening now, but let's say if you are going to a company like that who uses AI, right? Two questions. Number one, at like, what should the Gen Z keep in mind when you think about, you know, entering into a recruitment cycle which could be led by AI? And then second, at what point, does the employer like intervene to kind of do the cultural screening? Like, what are you seeing? Is it largely reliant on AI, and then when you make it to the final step, then you get to a human, or do you sense that maybe if there are four steps, like on step two, after the initial screening, there's a human intervention?
Yeah. Hell, I'll use the consulting answer and say it depends. 100% it depends.
Yes,
That's
sure.
that's what I learned at Deloitte in my first job out of university was, it depends. Um, I don't know how Google hires. My guess is that it's probably a second or third stage where they get into psychometrics or some sort of behavioral, cultural alignment sort of stuff. My guess is that the first round is probably AI screening, whether it be a bot that you're talking to or an avatar that you're talking to or some form of automation, just given the mass of applications that they have. My recommendation to Gen Z or anybody applying to those jobs, but certainly at the entry level where the volume of applications tends to be higher, is be you, be human. It's okay. Don't try to act differently. Even if it is a bot, just keep talking. Just keep having your conversation like you would anything else. These bots are getting smarter. They are getting better. They are getting faster. They're getting everything down. I demoed a bot the other day, or a tool, not a bot, an AI that in 90 seconds of having a conversation, it can read your psychometrics with 80% accuracy. If it just hears the 2,500 different data points in your voice, if they get 10 minutes of voice, they can get that accuracy of your psychometrics, who, what, how you do things, essentially. It can get it up over 90% accuracy. And so these tools are getting better, are getting faster and smarter. Don't try to trick them. Just treat it like it's a first round screen and talk about what makes you passionate. Talk about why you're a qualified candidate for this. My real recommendation, now, if I were talking to my kids or your kids, Nikhil, is Google's great. Love Google. Sure, it's great to get a Google on your resume, no doubt about it, or a Deloitte or whatever it may be. It's helped me for a long time. But you don't have to go there either. There's a lot of smaller, mid-name, small-name companies that you've maybe never heard of that are ultimately gonna give you better experiences. I do think at some point, everyone should work for a big company like that, know what it's like, and get a big brand name on their resume. It's just like I feel like everyone should live in a big city at some point, and everyone should also wait tables at some point. Those are life lessons from Keith, 'cause there's so many good experiences and all that. That said, the line is long at Google, and so just like applying to an Ivy school or whatever it may be, only the top, are going to get it. And so, go find the other company that's actually going to, maybe talk to you human to human out of the gates and have this conversation. Uh, I feel like you go to the grocery store now and you buy the things that are organic or this or that. I think at some point there might be a recruiting, marketing thing or something that says, you get to talk to a human here, like, or made by a human or something like that. Because there's also a little bit of AI exhaustion going on right now, and if you go out there and read the candidate blogs and the job seeker blogs, a lot of people are frustrated because they don't feel like they're, like I said, they're getting heard, or like the bot listened to them, or it cut them off, or they had an internet connection problem, and it just doesn't handle those things as well as a human can right now. And so there's a lot of frustration, and quite frankly, there's still a lot of regulations and legality that's going to come into play for that. We're at the very beginning stages of that part of it. And so I think, at some point, I might have a recruiting advantage. Although I don't have the name Google, I might have an advantage to say, I'm going to talk to you. I'm the CEO, founder of the company. We're going to have a conversation. And I think that's pretty darn special. And if it were my kids, I think I'd rather they go there where they can learn and wear a lot of hats and get the experience and things like that. But not to talk against AI because it's there. And the advice again is treat it like you would anything else. Have a conversation, be you. If there's a tech glitch, just deal with it. Just move on, pause for a second, acknowledge the tech glitch, and keep going.
Yeah. No, I think, well, it's, I hope that everybody can kind of underscore your advice, because it's in a world where so much of our life is driven by now, the first level conversation by technology or machines, right? I think, and especially for that generation, they're just used to it. You make a good point, that, hey, be yourself, and be authentic, and let the process go on. So Keith, just a couple of questions. One is, of course, in your mind now, you've talked about AI and the ups and downs and the pros and cons. What is, in your view, um, the number one advantage, and what do you sense is the biggest disadvantage, right? If we think about, looking at kind of the two extreme, like how does it is it helping us with volumes, and on the other side, it's creating an error rate, which could be a very small error rate. I don't know what's your what are the two opposites of the spectrum?
I I don't know if I'm smart enough to answer that question, and especially in this context. Somebody told me yesterday in a meeting, and I'm on a handful of different AI boards, and doing a lot of AI development right now. So I feel like I spend all the time. Someone said that the equivalent of an AI IQ today is 160, right? It's brilliant. It's great. They said in 6 months, it'll be 1600. Just imagine that, right? Imagine the 10 times in a 6 month period. And you and I have been around long enough to, have seen the internet climb or email climb or iPhones or whatever, and the adaption rate. But here, going from 160 to 1600, the intelligence is the greatest use of it. No human can have a 1600 IQ. No human can process things at the rate and the volume and the speed and everything else, that AI can do. And so I think that's an enormous advantage of this. We can process things at a much faster rate. We can analyze, we can digest, we can summarize, we can, my goodness, right? I'm getting ready to plan a trip. I'm temporarily in the US for the summer while the kids are home. I'm going back to London, and I'm trying to optimize a 9-day trip. I used to spend an hour to do that, but now I'm gonna go to my chat account and say, "I'm going there for 9 days. Here's my schedule. I'm gonna dump it in, and it's gonna tell me what to do, and it's gonna tell me the best times to do it and all that."
Yeah.
The ability to, turn what used to be an hour of research and figuring things out, into now instantaneous or seconds at least, feedback, that is a huge advantage.
Yeah.
I think the other side of this was the disadvantage. Um, I think too many are looking at AI as the solution. And I think that the solution needs to have human and then AI, or AI then human. I'm not really sure what totally comes first at all times. I know we are doing a lot of AI first to gather the basic information and then give our humans the kind of guided, or guidebook, if you will, to have intelligent conversations and to have guided conversations with our candidates to further validate and confirm information. Um, but I think that there's still a place for human in the recruitment space. I don't believe, although there are companies that have automated recruiting 95% of the process right now, there are multiple companies that have gone that far, that humans don't get involved with the candidate 95% of the way through. I personally, and I hope this isn't just me being old school, but I don't think that's the solution. I don't think you want to take humans out of the human business, out of the people business. And I think the disadvantage is that so many look at AI and all of its greatness and ability to automate and do all the good things that it can do. and then they get lazy on the things that they need to do and what they need to do with it. Um, I still need to go to London and do that trip. I still need to make the things happen, right? It's just giving me the guidance and the intel. But I'm still going to go out and do it. Uh, you know, at what point do I just tell AI to tell me what the experience was? I never get to experience it. I mean, that's a horrible example, but makes me think of like all the movies out there of just doing virtual trips instead of doing real trips. At what point, what's real, I guess. But um, I think the disadvantage is that people are going to be starving for humans in the recruitment space. And I hope Google automates 95% of their recruitment process because it's going to help every other company that isn't Google be more competitive for talent, for the right talent, and for people that want to engage in those conversations. I think that's the plus. I'm sure there's a million other, advantages, disadvantages, and no doubt volume is a big deal. And to be able to process things at volume. Uh, but I think there's a lot of bugs still. There's still a lot to learn. But if we're going to go from 160 to 1600 in whatever number of months or year or whatever it is, I think those bugs will work out pretty quickly.
Yeah, it is quite scary. And the other day, somebody was telling me when the rate at which the new chips are being, the horsepower of the chips, I guess, for the lack of a better word, that's in the newer versions. But you make a good point that at the end of the day, you will still have to work with people. You have to be with them. You can't, so, that whole experience is strictly with people. So just as a way to close out, Keith, this has been very helpful and very good. What could be kind of your call to action or advice for the Gen Z who's entering to say that, okay, what is the one thing to do? What is the one thing kind of not to do, right? In a world which is increasingly going to be shaped and continuously where AI recruitment is going to happen. So, what's the one do and the don't from a Gen Z perspective? And then let's flip it on the employer side, right? If you are a company, obviously you want efficiency, you want where cost comes in. How what should they keep in mind, right? The do versus the don't. So, just the final question there.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. I everyone knows now this wasn't prepared. I didn't get the questions ahead of time, so I probably could have a lot of different answers to this. Uh the do and the don't do, let's go to the Gen Z or candidate side first. Um don't avoid the AI. Just accept it. It is what it is, especially over this year, next year, where most recruitment, whether it be corporate or agency side recruitment, they're trying to figure it out. They're trying to implement it. They're trying to not fall behind and get lost. And so just accept it. That's my like don't fight it. Just go with it, accept it, be yourself. The do for the candidates. If you look into my profile or you look at some of my stories or former podcasts, I've had a lot of coffee meetings around the world trying to meet people and understand what makes them tick and all those things. And, in nearly, I don't know, 2,000 or some coffee meetings now, I can remember the 5 people that sent me handwritten notes after the meeting. I can't remember the other 1,995 people. It's interesting how old school can now be new school, stand out amongst your crowd. And so fine if you have interviews with bots or do those things, but send them a letter, send them a snail mail, or, do something different. Pick up the phone and call somebody and have a conversation or go meet somebody for coffee. I think the biggest thing for the do, especially for Gen Z who are still trying to figure out who they are in life and what they're trying to become, go and talk to people, go have conversations, go get a mentor, go get, people to ask advice. Get out there and have human to human interaction. But don't fight the AI at the same time. Client or company side, I see way too many companies right now trying to bring in AI at rush, and they're rushing into it, and they are simply automating a broken process. The recruitment model, as it's been for the last 70 plus years, is horrible. 70% of our candidates or employees are disengaged and would leave work if they could. That's a bad stat. It's a, we shouldn't be happy with that. It said that only 14% of people are said to be good job fits within their first 18 months. So 86% of the time when we hire, we get it wrong. So why the heck would we automate the process that produces those results? So break the process and fix that first, then automate. I went too early with my Alex stuff. 15,000 candidates and only one got hired. I went too early. I didn't know what data I needed. AI, it comes back to a data problem. And so figure out what needs what you need and then automate on the good stuff. The do for the, or I think that was a do. I don't know. Don't automate too fast, I'll say is the don't. The do, again, is keep the human involved in the human process. Human in the loop implies that a human may be watching it, but AI or something is automating it. I think humans in control or humans at the driver's seat or whatever it may be is a better approach. Use AI to amplify and make that human better, that human to human interaction. Don't, in my humble opinion, we should watch this a year from now. Don't use it to replace it. Use it to amplify.
Yeah. Oh, well, very well said. Use AI to make a better human connection. I just hope everyone can just even remember that line, because I
Yeah.
think we're increasingly, well, we're appreciating technology, but there's a line in which the dependency doesn't have to overtake what we are as humans, right? So that's
That's
very well said. Keith, you're doing some fantastic work in this space on your own as an entrepreneur. Tell us where people can reach you. Tell us also what you're doing there, if there's any websites, any other places, and just for people to reach out to you, to get more on the recruiting space, and even help, as someone who's got expertise in this area.
Yes. Well, I'm sure some links will be provided and things, but obviously look me up on LinkedIn. I'm the only Keith Langbo in the world, and so that I know of until someone fakes me with AI and an avatar, deep fakes. But so look me up on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out there. I think another great place. I talk a lot about this on LinkedIn, but I go into a lot greater depth of what we're doing with AI and specifically our AI product launch that's coming later this year. If you go to my website, it's called the recruitmentreformer.com. And if you go to that, you can follow my newsletter, get kind of the first insights as to what's happening with our AI releases and stuff like that. But I'm happy to help. We do a lot of events for job seekers. We do a lot of virtual events for job seekers, helping them with job search strategy, helping them figure out how to do it, let alone obviously getting them in front of our clients when it makes sense or making friendly introductions when it makes sense. So whatever we can do to help out, I welcome that with your audience.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And Keith, you're right in the thick of it. I think you're in the middle of it where you're seeing how this is gonna evolve. And I think you have a very objective view of appreciating technology, but not kind of, I think you've seen enough on the staffing side to see how that's grown. So I think there's a lot of value for everybody who's listening to say that, okay, how do I help a young Gen Zer, or if a young Gen Zer is thinking about plunging into the job market, as you say, your children and my children will be doing so very soon. So it's a real thing. It's a real issue. And I absolutely think that you've really simplified to say, okay, what is AI capable of doing? What we shouldn't think AI will do as a human needs to come in, and what does it mean for the Gen Z? I think to me that is such a relevant stakeholder more than anybody else. I mean, we all
Yeah.
now move and be in the job market, but here is a young cohort. You just imagine you got 40, 50 years of working career, but they're dealing with chatbots to decide
Yep.
whether they will make it on the other side. So very, very fantastic conversation, Keith. I really, really appreciate it. And I do hope to see you in person in one of my future trips in the US and North Carolina. I have friends and family, so looking forward to doing that.
We're in London, splitting time.
Or London, yes.
Or I'm going to get everyone
Yes.
works.
Yeah, yeah, because you split time. So thank you once again, and doing this very early in the morning for you. Wishing you a very
Pleasure.
good day and a pleasant week ahead. Take care.
Cheers.